Globalization and Its Discontents is a seminal work by Joseph Stiglitz, a Nobel laureate in economics. Published in 2002, the book offers a scathing critique of how globalization has been managed, particularly by institutions like the International Monetary Fund, or IMF. Stiglitz argues that the IMF, under the influence of Western powers, imposed policies that often exacerbated economic crises in developing countries. Stiglitz's central thesis is that globalization, while holding immense potential for good, has been hijacked by powerful interests. These interests, according to Stiglitz, prioritize the needs of wealthy nations and financial institutions over the well-being of developing countries. The book ignited a global debate about the fairness and efficacy of globalization, challenging the prevailing consensus on its benefits. At the heart of Stiglitz's critique lies the Washington Consensus, a set of neoliberal economic policies advocated by the IMF and the World Bank. These policies, often implemented as conditions for loans to developing countries, typically included fiscal austerity, privatization, and trade liberalization. Stiglitz argues that these policies were often inappropriate for the specific circumstances of developing nations. He contends that the one-size-fits-all approach of the Washington Consensus failed to consider the unique challenges faced by individual countries. The emphasis on rapid liberalization, for instance, often led to job losses and economic instability in countries ill-equipped to compete in global markets. Stiglitz provides compelling evidence to suggest that these policies often exacerbated inequality and social unrest. Stiglitz illustrates his arguments with case studies of economic crises in Asia, Russia, and Argentina. He argues that the IMF's intervention in the 1997 Asian financial crisis, for example, worsened the situation by imposing harsh austerity measures on struggling economies. Similarly, he criticizes the IMF's handling of the Russian financial crisis in 1998. Arguing that rapid privatization led to widespread corruption and economic decline. The case of Argentina, which experienced a severe economic crisis in the late 1990s and early 2000s, further exemplifies Stiglitz's critique. He argues that the IMF's insistence on fiscal austerity and trade liberalization deepened the recession and led to social unrest. These real-world examples provide a stark illustration of the human cost of poorly designed economic policies. Despite his criticisms, Stiglitz remains a proponent of globalization. However, he calls for a more nuanced and equitable approach, one that takes into account the needs and circumstances of developing countries. He argues for greater transparency and accountability in international financial institutions, as well as for policies that promote sustainable and inclusive growth. Globalization and Its Discontents is a must-read for anyone seeking to understand the complexities of the global economy. Stiglitz's insightful analysis and accessible writing style make this book both thought-provoking and engaging. It is a timely reminder that globalization, while a powerful force for change, must be managed carefully to ensure that its benefits are shared by all. International institutions like the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the World Trade Organization play a pivotal role in shaping the global economic landscape. However, their policies and actions have often been criticized for favoring the interests of powerful nations and multinational corporations over those of developing countries. Critics argue that these institutions need to undergo significant reforms to become more democratic, transparent, and accountable. For instance, the IMF's structural adjustment programs have been blamed for exacerbating poverty and inequality in many developing nations. Similarly, the World Bank's projects have sometimes led to environmental degradation and displacement of local communities. The WTO, while promoting free trade, has been accused of undermining local industries and labor rights. To address these issues, Stiglitz and other economists advocate for a rethinking of the mandates and governance structures of these institutions. They call for greater representation of developing countries in decision-making processes, as well as for policies that prioritize social and environmental sustainability. Only by reforming these institutions can we hope to achieve a more just and equitable global economic system. In conclusion, the role of international institutions in globalization is a complex and contentious issue. While they have the potential to foster economic growth and development, their policies must be carefully scrutinized and reformed to ensure that they contribute to a fairer and more inclusive global economy. The effects of globalization on developing countries have been profound and at times devastating. While proponents argue that globalization brings economic growth and opportunities, the reality for many developing nations is far more complex and often bleak. In many cases, the influx of foreign capital and multinational corporations has led to the exploitation of local labor and resources. Workers in developing countries frequently face poor working conditions, low wages, and limited labor rights. The promise of economic prosperity has often come at the cost of social and environmental well-being. One glaring example is the garment industry in countries like Bangladesh and Vietnam. Factories driven by the demand for cheap clothing in Western markets often operate under unsafe conditions, leading to tragic incidents such as the Rana Plaza collapse in 2013. These events highlight the human cost of prioritizing profit over people. Additionally, local industries in developing countries struggle to compete with large multinational corporations. This often results in the decline of traditional crafts and industries, leading to loss of livelihoods and cultural erosion. The dominance of global brands can stifle local entrepreneurship and innovation. Environmental degradation is another critical issue. The extraction of natural resources for export has led to deforestation, water pollution, and loss of biodiversity. Communities reliant on these ecosystems for their survival are left vulnerable and impoverished. However, it's not all doom and gloom. There are success stories where countries have managed to leverage globalization for their benefit. For instance, South Korea and Taiwan have transformed their economies through strategic policies and investments in education and technology. These examples show that with the right approach, it is possible to harness the benefits of globalization while mitigating its negative impacts. In conclusion, the impact of globalization on developing countries is multifaceted. To create a more equitable global economy, it is crucial to address the systemic issues that perpetuate inequality and exploitation. Only then can globalization truly become a force for good, benefiting all nations and their people. As we look towards the future, the question remains, how can we shape globalization to be more just and inclusive? The answer lies in rethinking our policies and approaches. Governments, businesses, and civil society must work collaboratively to ensure that the benefits of globalization are shared more equitably. This means implementing fair trade practices, protecting workers' rights, and investing in sustainable development. Technological advancements also offer new opportunities. Digital platforms can empower local entrepreneurs and provide access to global markets in ways previously unimaginable. Education and skill development will be crucial in preparing the workforce for an increasingly interconnected world. International cooperation is essential. Countries must come together to address global challenges such as climate change, economic inequality, and human rights abuses. By fostering a spirit of solidarity and mutual respect, we can build a global community that values the well-being of all its members. The future of globalization is not predetermined. It is up to us to shape it in a way that reflects our shared values and aspirations. Together we can create a world where globalization works for everyone, leaving no one behind. A future where prosperity, justice, and sustainability are within reach for all. Let's embrace this challenge with hope and determination, knowing that a better world is possible. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged. As we conclude our exploration of globalization, it is essential to turn our attention to actionable policy recommendations. Governments need to prioritize inclusive economic policies that ensure equitable distribution of wealth. This involves progressive taxation systems and social safety nets to protect the most vulnerable. Regulatory frameworks should be strengthened to hold multinational corporations accountable for their practices, ensuring they contribute positively to the societies in which they operate. Trade agreements must be renegotiated to incorporate labor rights, environmental protections, and fair trade standards. Investment in education and vocational training is imperative to prepare the workforce for the demands of a global economy. Additionally, fostering innovation through research and development can drive sustainable growth. International institutions must play a pivotal role in facilitating cooperation and conflict resolution among nations. Reforming these institutions to be more representative and transparent will enhance their legitimacy and effectiveness. Civil society organizations should be empowered to participate in policy-making processes, ensuring that the voices of ordinary citizens are heard. Finally, a commitment to sustainable development is crucial. Policies should promote renewable energy, resource conservation, and climate resilience to safeguard our planet for future generations. By adopting these policy recommendations, we can steer globalization towards a more just and sustainable future. It is a collective effort requiring the cooperation of all stakeholders. Together, we can build a world where prosperity and justice are not just aspirations, but realities for all. Thank you for joining us in this critical discussion. Stay informed, stay engaged, and let's work towards a better future. Until next time. As we draw our discussion on globalization to a close, it is clear that the path forward is neither simple nor straightforward. The journey towards fairer globalization demands unwavering commitment and collaborative effort from all corners of society. We have delved into the complexities and challenges posed by globalization, scrutinized the Washington Consensus, and examined the real-world consequences of flawed policy. We have also explored the crucial role of international institutions and the profound impact on developing countries. Our exploration has shown that while globalization has brought significant benefits, it has also exacerbated inequalities and posed new challenges. The future of globalization hinges on our ability to implement thoughtful and inclusive policies. By embracing the policy recommendations discussed, we can mitigate the adverse effects and harness the positive aspects of globalization. This includes fairer trade practices, robust regulatory frameworks, and investments in education and innovation. It is vital to remember that globalization is not an unstoppable force beyond our control. With the right policies and a collective will, we can shape it to serve the interests of all, not just the privileged few. Let us strive to create a world where economic prosperity is shared, social justice is upheld, and environmental sustainability is prioritized. Thank you for joining us on this critical journey. Stay informed, stay engaged, and let us work together towards a future where globalization benefits everyone. Until next time, take care and keep striving for a better world.